Erev Tov, everyone. Welcome to video number 48 in this Tells WhatsApp story group. First, I want to wish everyone, each one of you, an enjoyable, enlightening, inspiring, happy, kosher Pesach festival. And I adapted the story from an emailing of Rabbi Herschel Finman of Detroit, who noted that this story was told to him by a rabbi who heard it from a student of the Bnei Yissaschar, who heard it from the Bnei Yissaschar on his deathbed, when the Bnei Yissaschar was on his deathbed. So if you should encounter other versions of the story, remember that this one has a very strong pedigree. The Bnei Yissaschar, Rabbi Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov, he was called the Bnei Yissaschar because that was the name of his classic work of Chassidut and Kabbalah. He was the Elimelech part of his name came because his uncle was the Rabbi Elimelech Luzhinsk, who told his mother that he can call her after him, even while he was still alive. And he was a follower of the seer of Lublin, who told him he was a descendant of the tribe of Yissaschar, hence the name Bnei Yissaschar. He became a very important Rebbe in his own right, with many Hasidim, and he was a prolific writer, and he always strongly recommended the study of Kabbalah and Hasidic Kabbalah text and other mystical writings, Hasidic teachings as well. He passed away in 1841. His father, Rabbi Pesach Langsam, when the Bnei Yissaschar was a boy of 10 years old, his father took a job as a tutor in a distant town, and where he lodged there from after the high holidays, after Simchas Torah, until it was time to come back for Pesach. This was common in that area, where tutors wouldn't see their families from October to April. He lodged at the inn that his employer owned and ran, and where he was, his job was to teach the tutors, the innkeeper's sons. And then the arrangement was that before each festival, so he would be paid, and he would bring his meager earnings home, and that would have to suffice until the next festival. And one year, when it was a very intense winter, we're talking Russian winter, and it was very stormy. Sometimes the snow would fall for days on end, or even weeks. In fact, one winter when it was snowing very strongly and it was freezing cold, and one night there was a knock at the door of the inn. The innkeeper opened, and there were three Polish peasants, almost frozen, and they requested a place to stay and to have something hot to eat. So the innkeeper, of course, inquired after their finances, and it turned out they didn't even have enough for one night's stay and meals. So he told them, "Sorry, I can't take you," and he closed the door on him. And Reb Pesach was very upset, and he complained to the innkeeper about his cruelty. And the innkeeper said, "Well, what should we do? You want to pay for them?" And much to his surprise, Reb Pesach said, "Yes, I'll cover their expense." So they quickly opened the door before the peasants could get very far away. They invited them in, and this particular snowstorm lasted for 2 weeks, and they stayed. The three Polish peasants stayed there comfortably at Reb Pesach's expense. And then after the storm ended, they left. Of course, they thanked the tutor profusely, and they were gone. Months passed. The Pesach was approaching. Reb Pesach went to his employer, the innkeeper, to get paid. The innkeeper did a calculation and said, for this period of time, teaching my sons, I owe you 40 rubles. However, the bill for those three Polish peasants that you said you would pay for, that equals 43 rubles. So you owe me 3 rubles, and you can pay me when you come back after Pesach. Pesach was shocked. And he didn't know what to do, and the innkeeper said to him, well, so see you after Pesach, Hag Sameach, Good Yom Tov. And Pesach was still speechless. He could only mutter Good Yom Tov, Kosher Freilich Pesach, and he went back into his village. but he couldn't muster up the courage right away to go home and tell his family that he was coming back with no money. So he went into one of the local synagogues and took out a volume of Gemara and began to learn. Torah is our refuge. The 10-year-old Bnei Yissaschar heard that his father was in town, and so he went looking for him. Of course, he knew his father was probably sitting and learning somewhere, so he checked all the synagogues, and finally he found him. And he was very excited and very emotional. He begged his father, please come home. I want to show you the shoes that Mommy bought me and the clothes and other things that she bought for us for Pesach. He, of course, not realizing that his mother bought them on credit. The father, however, knew this very well, and it made him feel even worse. and to hear about these debts. But he acceded to his son's request, and they began walking home together. And as they were walking in the street, so all of a sudden a fancy carriage came rumbling down the street towards them, and that is in their direction. And of course, the village streets were very narrow, and the father and the son, were forced back into an alleyway in order that the carriage should get by and they should be safe. So as the carriage went by, it went over a big bump, and was jolted, and a package fell off the back of the carriage. Pesach, the Bnei Yissachar's father, quickly picked it up and quickly ran after the carriage, calling out to the coachman to stop so he could return the parcel. But apparently the coachman didn't hear him. He was already too far away, and soon the coach was out of sight. Reb Pesach knew well the Jewish law, that in such a situation, where by the time the owner realized that the small parcel was missing, he would have given up all hope of being able to get it back. He wouldn't even know any idea where it was lost. And he himself had no way to get in touch with the owner, not knowing who it is or where he is. So therefore, according to Jewish law, he's entitled to keep the package. He unwrapped it, and inside were bills of rubles. How many rubles? 43, to be exact. And that night at the Pesach Seder. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mention that it was Erev Pesach by the time he got back to town. That night at the Pesach Seder, so his father honored the young Bnei Yissaschar to go open the door for Eliyahu, which we do after the meal, or immediately after the meal, before starting the final part of the Haggadah, Shafok HaMosachah. And they saw the boy jump back startled and he said, Tati, the coachman is here. Do you think, does he want to take the money back? The father and some of his siblings hurried over to look, but they didn't see anybody. Pesach took his son aside and told him he should never tell anybody this story until his dying day.